Hello, my friends. Hello, and welcome once again to the Trashy Vaughn Manor, where Roger and I have returned to talk trash once again, as we do at this time of year when the Wasted Weekend is approaching. The Wasted Weekend, a weekend where you just sit around and read a trashy book. You just find a trashy book and read it over that weekend. Which weekend is it? Why, it is February the 15th and the 16th. Coming up, February 15th and 16th. Drop whatever else you're reading and pick up trash and read that. So, this is kind of an offshoot of Garbogist, created by the great CriminOlly, the Lord of Trash, CriminOlly. Garbogist is a reading event, a month-long reading event devoted to reading books that are considered trash by society. Society considers these books trash, even if they're awesome. And since August is so far away, we do have the Wasted Weekend, and you just choose one book and read that trashy book on the Wasted Weekend. And just as I did last year, I'm letting you choose which book I will read. I think Brack the Barbarian won last year. And why wouldn't it? And it was fantastic. Good choice. To make this unnecessarily complex, I chose, what I've got here is a pile of books. So I've got different categories of trash. Each category has two choices, but watch the whole video. You can only choose one book out of all of these books. You can only choose one. And I probably won't finish it that weekend because I'm working on Saturday. So I won't finish the book, but I'll be reading it. I'll finish it later. But I'll be reading it that weekend, that's for sure. I might finish it if it's one of the shorter ones. We'll see. Anyway, what books are they? So the first category is trashy science fiction. Trashy science fiction. And the first book is this one. It's The Radio Beasts. It's The Radio Beasts by Ralph Milne Farley. About this heroic guy who can use radio waves to transport himself to different planets. And he goes to this planet and has Edgar Rice Burroughs-like adventures fighting Ant-Men or something. There was a sequel. There's a sequel to The Radio Beasts, but I don't remember what it was called. I haven't read that one either. But The Radio Beasts by Ralph Milne Farley. Look at that cover. Why wouldn't you want to read this trashy book? So yeah, The Radio Beasts. Here you go. It looks fantastic. Choice number one, The Radio Beasts. Should I read this book for the Wasted Weekend? We'll see. It's a tough call because the next book is this one, The Human Termites. It's The Human Termites. They plan the massacre of mankind. Roger. Wow, that sounds pretty trashy. So, The Human Termites. This is actually a double. We also have The Ambassador from Mars. Which doesn't sound, frankly, as fun. I'll read this too because it's in the same book. But, The Human Termites sounds really awesome. This is by David H. Keller, MD. He's an MD, which means this is a better book than it would otherwise be, right? That's what it means. So there you go. Next, the next category is horror trash. Trashy horror. A couple books here to choose from trashy horror if that's what you want me to read. So, choice number one looks exceptionally trashy. It's The Intruders. It's The Intruders by Pat Montandon. Pat Montandon. The Intruders. Now, this used to have one of those covers that if you moved it around, the ghostly image would disappear and reappear. But it's so old that really has pretty much gone away. So now you just have this really thick front cover that doesn't do what it's supposed to do. But it did back in 1975. So this is a true story. It's a true story. Of course it's not true. But the guy who wrote this book says it is. It's not. I lay a curse upon this house. I do not forgive. I do not forget. I will never allow you a moment's peace or happiness. These words set in motion a tale of terror that is almost unbelievable, but every word of it is true. It's not, but it is trashy. Actually, I saw this book this book is actually featured in Paperbacks from Hell. At least a picture of it is. It's in there. It's The Intruders. So it's a paperback from hell. It's from hell, this book. Should I read it? I don't know. So that's one horror choice. This next one is from an author who has never disappointed me. Every book I've read from this author I've enjoyed. And this is The Transition of Titus Crow by Brian Lumley. The Transition of Titus Crow by Brian Lumley. This is one of his Lovecraftian works. The burrowers beneath, the terrors from above. Although born exactly 9 months after the death of H.P. Lovecraft, Brian Lumley denies that he is the reincarnation of Lovecraft's horror-haunted soul. He denies it, probably because it's not true. But Brian Lumley, I've always enjoyed Brian Lumley's books. And this one looks extra fun, and I've heard about this one, and I've never read any of the Titus Crow stuff. But here we go, the transition of Titus Crow. Yeah, that's awesome. It looks awesome. I think that's Michael Whelan. Isn't that a Michael Whelan cover? It's pretty awesome, whatever it is. So should this be the book that I read? Should it be this one? We'll see. Okay, now it's time for fantasy trash. Fantasy trash. No, we can't have any trashy book talk without bringing Lynn Carter into the mix. And he edited this book. It's Flashing Swords #1, an anthology series by Lynn Carter, which oddly enough I've never read, even though it has this fantastic Frank Frazetta cover on it. You think I would have read Flashing Swords #1. I mean, we've got Fritz Leiber, we've got Paul Anderson, we've got Jack Vance, and of course Lynn Carter himself, all featured in Flashing Swords #1. So it sounds like it's awesome. Flashing Swords, Swords and Sorcery, my favorite fantasy subgenre. Actually, it's just my favorite subgenre, Sword and Sorcery. So yeah, had to have some of that in here. Flashing Swords. So should this be the one that I read for the Wasted Weekend? Well, wait a minute, because we've got more fantasy. It's fantasy. It's Shadowlight. It's Shadowlight by Jackie Hyman. Shadowlight. Gifted with the magic of two races, could she save her people from an ancient evil which is spreading corruption across the land? Can she save it? It's Shadowlight. So this looks amazing. It looks amazing. Shadowlight, should I read it for this? This has been hanging around for a long time. It's managed to go through a few Garbogists without being read. But should I read this for the Wasted Weekend? It's your choice. It's Shadowlight. Okay, now it's time for Western Trash. Western Trash, Roger. 2 choices in the Western Trash category. The first one is kind of happy trash from a far away day. Long ago, the Lone Ranger was on the radio and then on the television. This is the first of the Lone Ranger novels written by Franz Stryker, who also worked on the radio show. I think Franz Stryker did the radio show as well. He wrote like 9 million episodes of that, didn't he? Let me know if I'm wrong, but I think he did. And he also wrote the series of novels, beginning with this one, The Lone Ranger. This is the paperback edition that came out before the Lone Ranger movie came out back in, what was it, the 80s? Soon to be an international film sensation. It wasn't. It wasn't a film sensation. There were a couple Lone Ranger movies, and neither one of them were film sensations. But I always loved the Lone Ranger. Hi-O Silver Away, The Lone Ranger. Should I read this? Should I read The Lone Ranger? Or should I read something just a tad more violent? Edge! So, in one of the Garbogist events, I read the first Edge book, and I have a pile of Edge books. I've got 50 of them, I think. And I haven't even gotten to book 2, so it's probably about time. Should I finally get to Edge? Should I get to Edge? We'll see. It's Edge. 10 grand. 10 grand. Yeah. Number 2 in a violent new series. The Lone Ranger book didn't say that. Number 2 in a violent new series. Now we're getting to a particularly trashy category, the category of novelizations. It's novelizations. And here are a couple of novelizations that I wanted to read before in Garb August events, but never did. So both of these are pretty big contenders for the Wasted Weekend. The first is The Bride. The Bride, that cinematic masterpiece which won multiple Academy Awards. It didn't. It's a novel by Vonda N. McIntyre. Vonda N. McIntyre did the novelization to The Bride. And she even signed this book. So, you know, this has got to be worth $10,000 or something. It's got to be. It's The Bride novelization. And I actually saw this movie on HBO back when HBO was new. I think it was back in the 80s when I saw this. The Bride. So I haven't seen it since then. It's The Bride. Should I read that? Or should I read V? Remember this television miniseries event that became one season of a regular television show before it was canceled? It's V, the terrifying novel based on the full 10-hour NBC miniseries. So it's not little. It's V. I wanted to read this, like I said, last Garb August, I think it was. But I didn't get to it because last August was a mess. But, you know, I could definitely pull it out for the Wasted Weekend if you think I should read V by A.C. Crispin. Should I read V? Okay. Now we're getting to the category of spicy trash. Spicy trash. I got a couple choices for spicy trash. Spicy. So, the first is from my favorite author of all time. He wrote spicy stories, and you can find them in Spicy Adventures. Spicy Howard. It's Spicy Howard. So this is from the Robert E. Howard Foundation Press. They make great books, and this is probably the most perfect cover for any book. I mean, you can't have a more perfect cover to a book called Spicy Stories by Robert E. Howard than this one. Who did that cover? I'm always forgetting this fellow's name. He's done a lot of great covers, but this is my favorite. Mark Wheatley. Is it Wheatley? Yes, it's Wheatley. Mark Wheatley. He's done some great covers, but man, this one is just perfect. Spicy Adventures. So this is the complete spicy pulp adventures written by Robert E. Howard. And yeah, I mean, this would be an excellent choice. An excellent choice, I think, for the Wasted Weekend. So there you go. Spicy Adventures by Robert E. Howard. And then we have this completely trashy book, Dangerous Liaisons. Dangerous Liaisons. This book is so spicy and trashy. Marie Antoinette kept a bound copy of this notorious study of sexual intrigue in her private library, and it was condemned by a criminal court 40 years after its publication in 1782 and publicly incinerated. It was such trash, it was incinerated. You know, this was published by Penguin Classics. Penguin, they'd publish anything, those guys. Anyway, this looks pretty trashy to me, Roger. This could be the trashiest book of the bunch. Dangerous Liaisons. I can't say the French version of it because I can't pronounce anything, but that's what this book is. I mean, look at that trashy cover. Man! Not safe for work, that one. So now, mystery trash. It's hard-boiled mystery trash. And I'm pulling out the king of hard-boiled mystery trash, Mickey Spillane. Now, I read the first, this is a omnibus volume of 3 of his Mike Hammer novels. I read the first one already, I, the Jury. I read that a couple years ago, maybe, I can't remember. But the second one, My Gun is Quick, would be the one. There's the trashy paperback cover reprinted on the back of My Gun is Quick. So My Gun is Quick. It's quick. So Mickey Spillane, one time he was the best-selling writer in America, and now most people don't know who he was. You know, unless you're into mysteries and old pulpy paperbacks, you probably don't remember Mickey Spillane, but he was a big deal at one time. And he wrote My Gun is Quick, and, you know, that would be the book that I would read if you choose Mickey Spillane. So there you go. But as trashy as that was, this one is way trashier. This is High Adventure number 40. All detective special. It's got Donald Wandry in here. It's got Hubie Cave. And look at this cover where this nasty old lady is actually sewing up this guy's mouth. That's horrifying. And trashy. This book has the greatest nom de plume of all. It's Justin Case. Tomb for the Living, written by Justin Case, who I think was Hubie Cave. I think that was a pseudonym for Hubie Cave. Let me know. But just look at that. It's just trash. So High Adventure number 40, Detective Special. You know, that's a choice. The final category is here. The final category. Historical trash. It's Historical trash. Historical novels that are clearly trash. And the first choice is Lysander. Look at this trashy book. A spectacular novel of love and war in the ancient world. Love and war in the ancient world. Look at that. That looks awesome. Lysander. So, yeah, should I read this? This looks great. I don't know why I haven't read this book yet. This book was written by F. Van Wyck Mason. F. Van Wyck Mason wrote Lysander. Yeah. Anybody ever read this? Probably not. But I will read it for the Wasted Weekend if you choose. Now, this is the last book on the list. Now, this was written by the winner from last year. This is a book by John Jakes, author of Brack the Barbarian. He was the winner of last year. Will he win again this year? Will you choose this book by John Jakes? A book I long have wanted to read. The first book in a series I've long wanted to read. It's The Bastard! It's The Bastard. Look at this bastard on the cover. Man, what a bastard he is. And I could read this book and be a bastard myself. It is The Kent Family Chronicles, Volume 1. I am actually from the Kent family. That's my mother's maiden name, Kent. So this is all about my family. It's The Bastard. That could be me. A different bastard, though. So if you're around my age, if you're around 50-ish, you probably remember the Kent Family Chronicles being everywhere. You know, it was sold at like supermarket checkout stands and wherever. I mean, The Bastard became like a mini-series or something. I think it became a mini-series. So yeah, this was a big deal back in the day, the Kent Family Chronicles. I have them all. I've long intended to read them. And I hear they're trashy. So, and John Jakes, you know, Brack the Barbarian. How can they not be trashy? So there you go, The Bastard! The Bastard by John Jakes, by Final Choice. Which one of those books should I read? I know it's tough. I threw a lot of them out there. You make the call. You choose. You put your choice down below. Whatever book gets the most votes will be the book that I read for the Wasted Weekend. Man, thrilling stuff yet again. Okay, guys, I will catch you next time.